Welcome to the Sinner's Chronicles.
What if I tell you that one of the scariest horror movies ever made wasn't just fiction, but loosely based on real life events? The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a movie that left many terrified, but surprisingly, only a few realize its iconic killer, Leatherface, was inspired by a real life monster. A man whose crimes were so gruesome they haunted America for decades. In today's video, let's uncover the chilling truth behind Ed Gein, the killer who turned nightmares into reality. The Butcher of Plainfield, or the Plainfield Ghoul, Edward Theodore Gein, is known by many names, but none fit him as perfectly as the real life Leatherface. In the realm of serial killers, they're mostly given these infamous titles as a way to hint at the level of atrocity they've committed against humanity, but in Ed's case, he did something way worse than what Leatherface did in the movies. Wearing a mask of your victim's skin is one thing, but imagine going way ahead and literally creating furniture out of them. Now, that's some really messed up stuff. But before I start telling you about his insane crimes, which would probably make you want to throw up, it's worth knowing about Ed's past, which may have played a crucial role in his sinister fetishes. Ed Gein was born on August 27th, 1906, in La Crosse, Wisconsin. He was the second of two sons to a man named George Philip Gein and his wife Augusta Wilhelmina Gein. Gein and his older brother Henry had quite a strange childhood. Their mother Augusta was a weird lady who was religious but in a very odd way. She frequently preached to her son some of the most bizarre things you can imagine, like immortality, the evil of drinking, and that women were born to be the instruments of the devil. Basically, it was a cultish upbringing the two brothers faced throughout their lives. They were brainwashed by their own mother, who used to read them verses from the Bible every afternoon. She specifically only selected the verses that were associated with death and murder. Any sane person would think that this woman was absolutely crazy, but for Ed, she was an idol. In fact, he was literally obsessed with her. His father, George Gein, he was a carpenter who sold the local grocery store he owned and decided to move to the countryside to live on a 155-acre farm in the town of Plainfield. Now, here's the catch. Unlike the city, this farm was much more isolated and quiet. Augusta took advantage of this eerie environment and embraced it further by not letting anyone come to their house or let her sons meet the locals. The only time Ed and Henry could see someone other than their parents was when they went to school. After school, they would help out at the farm, and every afternoon they had a Bible session with their mother. Due to this isolated life, both brothers suffered from poor social development, which was heavily noticed by others, especially Ed. He was shy and laughed strangely on random occasions, making others feel weird around him. But it's not like Ed didn't want to be social. In fact, he was scared because whenever he tried to make friends, his mother would punish him. But that was just the beginning. As in the future, Ed was about to be even more isolated as all of his family members died strangely, leaving only him on that farm. On April 1st, 1940, George Gein died of heart failure at the age of 66. This led to the brothers doing all sorts of jobs around the town to pay for their living expenses. Thanks to their reliability, they became the handyman for the community. From fixing up things to babysitting children, they did all sorts of things. Now, here's the intriguing part. Around that time, Henry began to date a recently divorced woman with two children. He wanted to move in with her, but Ed didn't like that, as it would have distanced Henry from their mother, whom they practically worshipped. However, being a handyman, he also had a solution for this situation. On May 16th, 1944, the day Ed was burning away marsh vegetation, the fire spread rapidly, leading the locals to call the fire department. When the fire was finally extinguished, Ed reported his brother missing, who was later found dead by a search team lying face down. It turns out the fire wasn't the cause of his death, as Henry had been deceased for quite some time and had faced no injuries or burns at all except for some bruises on his head. But despite all the evidence screaming that might be a murder, the police dismissed the case and the county officially listed asphyxiation as the cause of death. Now that both his father and brother were gone conveniently, the only family Ed had was his mother, who was also suffering from paralyzing stroke shortly after her son's death. Ed took care of his mother, and during that time, a strange incident occurred when they both visited a man named Smith to purchase straw. Now, Smith was a violent man who started beating a dog to death in front of Ed and Augusta. Then a woman came from inside Smith's residence and tried to stop him but failed. Augusta saw what was happening and felt disgusted, not by Smith but by the woman. She angrily said the woman had no right to be there since she wasn't married to Smith, calling her Smith's harlot. After this, she had another stroke, which eventually led to her death on December 29th, 1945, at the age of 67. Gein was obviously devastated by her death. After all, she was his idol and true love, and now all that was left was him and that farm. He sealed off all the rooms that were specifically occupied by his mother, keeping them clean while the rest of the house was turned into a dumpster. To spend his time, Ed loved reading books. More specifically, he would read books that involved cannibals or Nazis. He was obsessed with Ilse Koch, a German war criminal who murdered several tattooed prisoners and made objects using their skin. These strange fantasies heavily shaped Ed's mentality. He had devilish intentions towards other human beings, and after possibly murdering his own brother, that desire to kill just became even more prominent, and it was finally time to fulfill them. On November 16th, 1957, the entire town was worried about Bernice Worden, a 58-year-old woman who ran a local hardware store who disappeared in the morning. The police got involved, and when Deputy Sheriff Frank Worden, who was the victim's son, arrived at the store, he found that the cash register was open and the blood stains were all over the floor. The investigation revealed that the store's truck was seen driving out of the building around 9:30 a.m., and coincidentally, not many customers came by except for one person, Ed Gein. According to Frank, Ed came by on the evening before the disappearance and was expected to come by again in the morning to pick up a gallon of antifreeze. When the police checked the sales register, the last receipt she wrote was none other than antifreeze. The cops wasted no time, and by the evening, they arrested Ed at a grocery store in Plainfield. But this arrest wasn't loosely based on mere suspicion, because when they searched his farm, they found horrors that were beyond explanation. The sheriff who searched Ed's shed discovered the decapitated corpse of Worden, which was hung upside down like meat in slaughterhouses. Her torso was dressed out, removing all her internal organs, and through an autopsy, it was confirmed she was first shot with a .22 caliber rifle, causing her death, and later, these atrocities were carried out on her. Now, this wasn't Ed's first murder, as it was confirmed when the officers searched his house, where they found human remains everywhere. From bones scattered everywhere to artistically made furniture from human skin, such as wastebaskets, human leather-wrapped chairs, skulls as bedposts, and corsets made from female torsos. The police even found a mask inside a paper bag made out of the face of another one of his victims named Mary Hogan, while her skull was found inside a box. She was a 51-year-old who ran a tavern and went missing on December 8th, 1954, until she was found inside Ed's residence. Bernice Worden's heart was discovered in a plastic bag near a stove, which indicated signs of cannibalism. If you think that's creepy, then this isn't even half the crimes Ed committed inside his self-made slaughterhouse. He even made everyday stuff, such as a belt made from female human nipples and a window shade decorated with a pair of lips. By now, it's clear that all of his victims were women against whom he committed acts similar to what he read in the books. Ed Gein's integration is by far one of the most chilling crime stories in history. During these sessions, he revealed some very disturbing details, telling the cops how he made over 40 visits to 3 local graveyards between 1947 and 1952. During these visits, he sometimes dug up graves in a dazed-like state and then reburied them in perfect condition. On some occasions, he took the bodies of middle-aged women to his home as, according to him, they resembled his mother. Once at home, he did things with them no one could have ever imagined. Ed even admitted to stealing from over 9 graves soon after their burials. This led to him taking the cops to those graves. The cops were astonished by the fact that a man came during the night and dug up graves without being spotted by anyone. That mystery bothered them for a long time, but throughout the investigation, they couldn't find any associates. When asked why he did these things, Ed explained that when his mother died, he was deeply hurt by it. So he started to create a woman's suit that would allow him to become his mother by crawling into her skin. Now, it really starts to feel like something that can only be seen in horror movies, but remember, it happened for real. But despite all the bizarre fantasies, Ed never admitted to being intimate with the corpses as, according to him, they smelled too bad. The only confirmed murders on Ed are known to be of Hogan and Worden, but that was a hard pill to swallow as many cases happened during the time in which he may have been involved. To this day, he's one of the prime suspects behind the disappearances of several women, including Georgia Jean Weckler and Evelyn Grace Hartley. According to his psychiatrist, they revealed that Ed committed these murders only against the woman who resembled his mother. The interrogation was so disturbing for the police that Sheriff Art Schley, who was the one questioning, couldn't control his emotions and banged Ed face into a brick wall. He was so traumatized that he died of heart failure in 1968 at the age of 43, shortly before Ed Gein's trial. Ed's trial is undoubtedly one of the most complex trials ever conducted, as it was an in and out affair. Initially on November 21st, 1957, he was trialed but was found not guilty due to being insane and suffering from schizophrenia. From there, he was sent to Central State Hospital for the criminally insane and later to Mendota State Hospital in Madison. But later in 1968, he was declared mentally stable for trial, during which a psychiatrist revealed that Ed was unaware whether he killed Worden intentionally or accidentally while firing a gun that he was examining. Thanks to the testimony of doctors, he was once again found not guilty due to insanity and spent the rest of his life at a mental hospital. He was only tried for the murder of Worden, but later admitted to killing Mary Hogan. On July 26, 1984, at the age of 77, the Plainfield Ghoul died at the Mendota Mental Health Institute due to respiratory failure. Finally, putting an end to all the suffering he committed to women who were not safe from him, even after being buried deep underground. Now, as I said in the beginning, Leatherface is loosely inspired by the real-life serial killer Ed Gein. Ed never used a chainsaw, whereas Leatherface is defined by it. While Leatherface is a violent, psychotic maniac who wears masks of human skin, Ed, though deeply disturbed, had a calm demeanor that hid away his true madness. Both made furniture and masks from human remains, but Ed likely never wore his. Their motives also differed. Ed acted alone, driven by his mother, while Leatherface obeyed his terrifying family. Leatherface from the movie was truly terrifying, but when you find out it's actually based on a monster like Ed Gein, it just makes you realize that such things are possible in this messed up world. That brings us to the end of the video. If you liked it, make sure to hit like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.